Do you wake up already exhausted? Your body might be up, but your mind still feels shackled. The day hasn't even begun, and yet everything inside you feels heavy. Your thoughts, your chest, even the silence. You look around and everything seems normal. Work is waiting. Your phone buzzes with demands disguised as opportunities, and the world keeps telling you, keep pushing. You can do it. That's exactly how I felt for years. A subtle, invisible weight I couldn't name, even though on the surface everything seemed fine. I'd try to shake it off, tell myself to just be more productive, be more positive, but it never truly went away. It just settled deeper. So why do so many of us feel this way? Why are we so utterly drained, constantly chasing, yet always feeling like we're falling behind? And why does it feel like no one's really talking about it? Why do we keep blaming ourselves? Here's the truth. No one tells you. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're simply a victim of a society designed to burn you out. For a long time, power operated through clear commands and physical boundaries. Think of old factories, military barracks, even schools. There were explicit rules: sit down, be quiet, obey. It was a disciplinary society, as philosopher Michel Foucault described it. The logic was simple. Someone gives orders, you follow. There were visible fences. Punishment was physical, and you knew exactly who was in charge, who was shaping you. But that world of tangible prohibitions, it's fading. What has replaced it is far more insidious, far more brutal. Today, almost no one forbids you anything. No one tells you what you can't do. On the contrary, they tell you that you can do anything, that you are free, that your potential is limitless, that it's just a matter of effort, focus, and self-discipline. And this message, while seemingly positive and empowering, carries a hidden trap. When everything depends solely on you, any failure becomes your fault. This is the essence of the high-performance society we live in now, as articulated by Byung-Chul Han. The prison has no walls, but it has endless goals. The punishment isn't physical, it's psychological. And the one demanding it all from you, it's you. You've become an entrepreneur of yourself. And what's the problem with that? An entrepreneur can never stop. They can always improve, always grow, always do more. This traps you in a relentless race with no finish line, no rest, no truce. I used to think I was the only one constantly telling myself to do more, to be better. Every time I didn't hit a target, even one nobody asked for, I'd feel this immense guilt. It was like I was holding the whip to my own back. Have you noticed how even leisure has become a performance metric? Reading is good, but now it has to be efficient. Reading. Meditation needs to be a peak performance technique. Exercise has become a non-negotiable duty. Even sleep has turned into a battleground, tracking its quality, calculating optimal hours, optimizing your nighttime routine. Rest isn't rest anymore. It's just preparation to perform better tomorrow. You're not living, you're managing yourself. I remember feeling terrible when I spent an hour reading fiction instead of a business book. Even my sleep was managed by tracking apps. I'd worry if I didn't get exactly 8 hours. It was exhausting. And when you fail, when you can't cope, when you get sick, when you freeze up, you blame yourself. Because after all, no one forbade you from doing anything right. You're free, you have choices, you just need to put in the effort. But that's where the insidious trick lies. This new form of oppression makes you believe you're oppressing yourself willingly. Control has shifted. It's left the boss's office and moved into your head. You've become your own prison guard. The walls are now invisible, but they're there, built with expectations, metrics, productivity goals, and self-demands. This wall is even harder to break through because you no longer know where the system ends and you begin. But if all of this is crushing you from the inside, it's because there's something fundamentally wrong with this model. It's not natural to live in a constant war with yourself. And this silent war is leaving its marks on your mind, your body, your very soul. This burnout that consumes you isn't coming from an external enemy. It comes from within, fueled by something that seems harmless but isn't: excessive positivity. You learn to smile while crumbling inside, to say everything is okay when you're truly on the verge of collapse, to maintain an image of control, efficiency, and enthusiasm even when everything in you screams for a pause. And do you know why? Because we're immersed in a new kind of violence. A violence that doesn't hit, doesn't shout, doesn't impose. It seduces it, invites it, pushes. It's the violence of positivity. Byung-Chul Han warns us, the 21st century is no longer dominated by illnesses caused by repression. We no longer live in a time of censorship, strict prohibitions, or forcibly imposed limits. What makes us sick today isn't that you can't, it's that you can. What corrodes us from within isn't classical oppression, but an excess of stimuli, an excess of apparent freedom, an excess of positive demands. The command now is to smile, to produce, to optimize, to be happy. Always. But this excess comes at a heavy cost. Depression, ADHD, anxiety, and burnout are no longer individual pathologies, isolated deviations. They are social symptoms. They are the psychological responses of a body and mind that can no longer bear the weight of constant performance. And the most perverse part is that in this new scenario, you are no longer the victim. Feeling guilty for not being productive today, lazy, lacking motivation, lacking focus, on the verge of collapse, lacking gratitude, lacking yoga, lacking a new course. The fault is always yours. This is how positivity makes you sick, because it doesn't accept limits. It doesn't accept failure. It doesn't accept sadness, pauses, or slowness. And the more you try to conform to this artificial ideal of productivity and happiness, the further you drift from yourself. You become a motivational caricature while everything inside is falling apart. Positivity has become a command. Nowadays, you're constantly bombarded with phrases like, believe in yourself, just want it, be the best version of yourself. It seems harmless, even inspiring, but the effect is different. You never feel like enough. You never think you've done enough. You never allow yourself to rest because there's always something to improve, to fix, to speed up. You live surrounded by goals, metrics, social media comparisons at work, even in moments of leisure. And this bombardment of stimuli doesn't strengthen you. It exhausts you. It's like being stuck on a treadmill that never stops accelerating. And the worst part is, you think you're the one who turned it on. But you weren't born this way. No one is born to live in this state of constant alert. This model has been constructed, and it's slowly emptying you. Because behind all this energy, this rush, this productivity, there's something that has been buried, something you've forgotten how to access. And that's what we're going to explore now. Because there's a part of you that's suffocating, a forgotten, ignored, discredited part. And perhaps that's the only part capable of healing you. It's time to talk about silence, boredom, and everything you've stopped allowing into your life. Have you noticed that in recent years, everything around you has transformed into some kind of continuous improvement project? You're no longer just a person. You've become a project, an investment, a personal brand. Someone who needs to grow, sell themselves, reinvent themselves. Not because you want to, but because if you don't, the world simply dismisses you, excludes you, labels you as obsolete, lazy, irrelevant. And this is the perversion. This pressure no longer comes from a boss, a government, a tangible power structure. It comes from within. You've become a product of yourself, and even more, you've turned into your own executioner. Byung-Chul Han calls this self-exploitation. You no longer need a boss watching over you. You demand from yourself, control yourself, punish yourself. Productivity has become the new form of obedience. You think you're in control of your life because you have the freedom to choose, to create, to innovate, to pursue your dreams. But what no one tells you is that this freedom is a farce, because all available paths lead to the same place: more work, more demands, more acceleration. And even what is sacred, what once was a refuge, has become an extension of your performance. The body has become a machine to be optimized, the mind a tool for goal management. Relationships have become networking. Spirituality has turned into coaching. Rest has become a recharge to produce again. Even your free time is analyzed, monetized, maximized. You've become a corporation, and the only employee of that corporation is you. But no one can sustain this in the long run, and you're feeling it. The overload isn't just physical, it's existential. You are everywhere except inside yourself. You are always doing but never truly living. And deep down, you know the more you try to fit this ideal of success, the further you feel from your own essence. And here's the question that few dare to ask. What have you lost in this process? What has been left behind while you've been chasing to become a better version of yourself every single day? What has been silenced? What has been pushed aside? There's a part of you that might not even remember what it was like to exist without constantly having to justify its existence. In the next segment, we're going to talk about this forgotten space, about the silence you avoid, the boredom that scares you, and the contemplation, this rare and almost extinct skill that is perhaps what you need to rediscover right now. Because you weren't born to be a cog in a machine. You were born to feel, to simply exist. When was the last time you allowed yourself to simply do nothing? No planning, no replying, no consuming, no justifying your own existence. Just being, breathing. Feeling time pass without the urgent guilt of wasting it. Perhaps you don't even know how to do that anymore. And it's not your fault. You've been trained to always be active, always ready, always connected. Any moment of pause is quickly filled by a notification, a new task, a short video, some motivational content. Oh, I need to get this done first. Leisure has become waste. Silence has become discomfort. And boredom. Boredom has become the enemy to be annihilated. But let me tell you something. No one talks about deep boredom isn't a dead end, it's a gateway. Byung-Chul Han explains that in the past, boredom was fertile ground for creativity, for contemplation, for true presence. It was in that space that philosophy, art, and spirituality were born. Because boredom, the kind that doesn't rush you, that forces you to confront yourself, opens up space for contemplation. And contemplation is what brings you back to your humanity. Today, however, we live immersed in fragmented attention. We jump from one stimulus to another like animals on high alert. Multitasking is no longer a skill, it's a survival instinct. You're watching a video while answering texts, while thinking about tomorrow's meeting, while feeling guilty for not doing more. The present has become unbearable, and this mental hyperactivity comes at a cost. It robs you of your depth, your connection to the world, to people, to yourself. You get used to consuming everything on the surface, including your own emotions. You feel, but you don't dive deep. You reflect, but you don't excavate. You live, but you're not fully there. That's why you're tired even after sleep, anxious even in silence, disconnected even when surrounded by people. Because your soul has been trained to run, but it's forgotten how to stop. And stopping isn't weakness. Stopping is a reunion. It's in silence that you hear what the rush conceals. It's in stillness that you realize how wounded you are. It's in the emptiness that you rediscover who you are without all those layers of productivity that have been piled on you. But this return requires courage. The courage to slow down, to face the discomfort of having nothing to do, to endure the void until it becomes fertile. And above all, the courage to say no to the command of performance. And that's where we enter one of the most revolutionary points in Han's thought. A concept that might seem strange at first, but perhaps holds the only true escape from this crisis we're living. The inability to do as a form of freedom. In this next part, we'll understand why stopping might be the most powerful act you can make, and why perhaps the true rebel of our time is the one with the courage to do nothing at all. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It dissects Jung's core ideas and gives you tools for deeper self-understanding. The link is in the pinned comment. You've been trained to believe that freedom is the ability to do everything, that the more capabilities you have, the freer you'll be, that the ideal life is one full of achievements, movement, and autonomous decisions. But what no one tells you is that this excess of power, choice, and initiative is also a prison. And perhaps it's the most disguised and dangerous of all. The logic of our society is simple: if you're not doing something, you're wasting life. Everything must have a purpose, utility, a result. Even rest needs to justify its existence as energy recovery. Even silence needs to be sold as strategic self-care. Everything needs to make sense. Everything needs to be profitable. Everything needs to generate something. But Byung-Chul Han introduces us to a radical idea. True freedom begins when you reclaim the right not to do, not to act, not to want, not to be useful. Simply to be unable to. This might seem counterintuitive, right? After all, we spend our lives trying to gain the power to do, the power to travel, the power to produce, the power to achieve, the power to decide. But the power to do has become a command. You can, therefore you must. What if you don't want to? What if you can't? What if you're simply tired? The answer you hear from society is clear: you've failed. In this model, there's no space for vulnerability, no space for no. Everything that doesn't fit this logic of action, achievement, and growth is labeled as deviant, weak, lazy. But what if it's precisely in that space of refusal that true power lies? To say no is an act of power. To reject the excess of rush, of overload, is a gesture of rebellion. Not wanting to improve all the time, not accepting every opportunity, not following all advice, not answering every call, to say no to the world in order to say yes to yourself. This inability to do is revolutionary. It breaks the logic of infinite productivity. It shatters the myth of being the best. It gives back to humans what has been taken away: the ability to exist without constantly having to prove their worth. And when you allow yourself not to do that, something changes within. Anxiety gives way to silence. Guilt gives way to presence. The rush transforms into breath. You no longer need to chase yourself because you are already here, whole right now. But don't be fooled, this freedom isn't comfortable, because it demands confrontation. It demands that you look into the void and say, I accept not being everything. I accept not doing everything. I accept simply being. And this goes against everything you've learned until today. That's why so many people get sick trying to free themselves without realizing they're just swapping one set of shackles for another. The real challenge isn't to do more. It's to be able to stop, to be able to let go, to be able to say enough. But when you begin to see not doing as liberation, something is revealed. A clarity that was obscured by noise, a strength that doesn't come from overcoming, but from surrendering. A peace that only appears when you refuse to keep fighting against yourself. And that's where we reach the deepest truth of all this, a truth you might have sensed even without knowing how to name it. The exhaustion you're experiencing isn't just fatigue. It's a symptom of a failed way of life. It's a cry for help from your soul.